There's this question in my mind since I started running 7 years ago. Can an average runner like me in their 40s run a sub 3-hour marathon if she really trains for it? I still don't know the answer. Let's find out. In this video, I want to talk about my running story and how I got faster on the marathon over the years. I'm going to show you the first 2 weeks of my training back after the race. And while I do that, I'm going to tell you about all the marathons I ran so far, how I slowly progressed to get closer to that 3-hour mark, and what changes I made, what helped me, and what the setbacks were. And maybe it will help you to get faster or more consistent in your running. I started running 7 years ago, and before that, I couldn't run a mile. A year later, I ran my first marathon. I did train for it. I think I was well prepared for a first timer. My first marathon, I used a 20-week-long free training plan from a book by Andrew Castor. Oops, Bella. Running your first marathon. I ran 3 hours, 40 minutes and 39 seconds. My highest weekly mileage for my first marathon was 50 miles, and my longest long run was 22 miles. The book only called for a 20-miler, but I ended 2 miles because I just wanted to know if I can go over 20. After this long run, I started having ankle pain on the outside. It wasn't too bad to stop me from running, but it definitely was there, so I used KT tape to run my first marathon, actually. My second marathon was in Galveston, Texas, and I ran a 3:34, shaving up almost 6 minutes of my time. My highest mileage for the Galveston Marathon was 50 miles, and I was using a training plan from Macmillan Running. 10:48 for this easy trail run. For these 2 first marathons, I was doing some very basic strength training, mostly body weight exercises, and some runner specific, but nothing serious. After my second marathon, my ankle pain got much worse. I didn't want to stop running, so I just pushed through the pain. It definitely wasn't the smartest decision, but I didn't know any better. The doctors identified my problem was peroneal tendonitis. I started doing a lot of PT exercises to strengthen this muscle and tendon. Luckily, the exercises helped and I started feeling better, so I decided to sign up for my 3rd marathon, which was Modesto Marathon in California. I started training for it since I was using the Macmillan system, and of course, COVID hit in 2020, so that race actually got cancelled. I still ran it virtually. Halfway into that virtual run, I actually started having right foot pain in my arch. I thought it's just a cramp and it will go away. So I wasn't smart enough to stop. I pushed through the pain again, and it just got worse and worse as miles passed. At the end, I couldn't put any weight on my right foot. The next day, I went to see a doctor to find out if I have a stress fracture because I was pretty certain that I broke something. The x-rays confirmed that I did not have a stress fracture and all my bones were fine. The diagnosis was that I had cuboid syndrome, peroneal tendonitis, and most likely plantar fasciitis at the same time on the same foot. It took me about a year to be able to walk normally and then finally start running again. It was a horrible year for me. I was riding the bike. I was trying to do cross training just to keep my fitness up, but it wasn't enough. So after 1 year of running, I finally was able to start jogging very slowly, 1 mile at a time. It was 2022 when I decided to run the Chicago Marathon, where I qualified for back in Galveston. So I started training for it, but I was more careful this time. So I had a gait analysis done, and they found out that I was using mostly my calf muscles and my glutes and hamstrings weren't engaged. So they gave me a bunch of exercises how to strengthen those muscles and also how to activate them. Luckily, it clicked very fast, and of course, after I started using those muscles, they weren't used to this load. So I ended up with a hamstring injury just before Chicago. So for that race, my highest mileage was about 40 miles, I think. Luckily, this hamstring injury wasn't serious enough to stop me from running completely, so I was still able to do my easy runs and long runs. What I couldn't do was the speed work and uphill running. So because of this, I didn't do much speed work for the Chicago build. And I went into it with no high hopes and no expectations at all. I just wanted to finish it. Luckily, my hamstring held up pretty well. I finished the Chicago Marathon with a time of 3 hours and 32 minutes, still running a 2-minute PR, which was amazing. I just couldn't believe it how I was able to pull that off with all the setbacks and injuries. And I knew that I should be able to break 3 hours and 30 minutes in the marathon if I'm able to train for it better, if I don't get any injuries. So my main priority was to strengthen my muscles, especially the hamstring and glutes. So what I changed at this point was to started lifting heavier weights in the gym and focused more on glute strength. And I signed up for my next marathon for 2023 September, which was the Erie Marathon. My highest mileage for this build was 64 miles, but it wasn't perfect. I still was having hamstring injuries. My hamstrings were just too weak and they couldn't handle the load. On the flight there, I started having arch cramps, and unfortunately during the race, this arch cramp still persisted and also moved into my calves. So both my calves locked up, and during the second half of this marathon, I was basically in pain all the time. I knew I wanted to finish this marathon. I knew I'm not a quitter. I never had cramps like this before in my life. But despite all these, I still ran a few seconds PR at Erie. But after this race, I knew I just want to go under 3 hours and 30 minutes badly, and I knew I can do it. Luckily, after the race, I wasn't injured. The cramp and the calf tightness went away in less than a week. So I signed up for my next marathon, which was Tucson in December, just shy of 3 months later. I was hoping to carry my fitness to that race and maybe add some. So I was using the Macmillan system still, and since this was such a short time between two marathons, Coach Greg suggested that I should use a plan 1 level lower what I was using before to prevent any injuries. I took his advice and I chose the level 3 marathon plan. I bumped up my strength training seriously, much more than before. I put together a routine what included all those PT exercises the doctors gave me for my foot, my calves, my hamstring, my glutes over the years. And I diligently did those. And finally, I had a breakthrough and I ran 3 hours and 19 minutes on the Tucson Marathon. So I knew that I figured something out, that this was the key for me to stay consistent and be able to stack marathon builds on top of marathon build. I just had to do the strength work more seriously. I never was able to gain any muscle. It was always very hard for me. So I knew that I have to put the work in the gym more than maybe others to be able to stay injury-free. Today I have a 13-mile long run. I'm running on this dirt, sandy path. No pace is still, just comfortable. I'm running around 8:30, 8:40 pace. My next race was Boston, and since Tucson was a downhill course, and Boston has way more hills, my goal was to just run the same time as I ran in Tucson, which was 3:19. So for Boston, I used a training plan from Macmillan, which was their highest level, level 5, Boston-specific mileage-based plan. My highest mileage for the Boston build was 75 miles, and I ran over 72 miles for several weeks. I was running 6 days a week, only Monday as a day off. I added more hills to my runs, especially to my long runs and easy runs. Though this one is all dry. In March, I traveled to Kenya for 2.5 weeks with a training group called Kenya Experience. Ethan is
about 7,000 feet of elevation, and it's hilly. You can't avoid the hills unless you run on the track. So that helped a lot with my Boston training. I did 2 long runs while I was there. Both were on Moyburn Road, which had the same elevation profile as Boston. What the coaches suggested was to run my long runs faster, what I've been doing. Before Kenya, I was running my long runs very easy, and they suggested I should do it at a moderate effort. So I did 2 long runs there. One was a 22-mile long run. I averaged like 7:58-ish, 59, I don't remember now. And the second long run was an 18-mile long run with 4x5K at marathon pace. That was very hard, but I managed to do it. It was such a good experience. That's where my bracelet is from, actually. So I ran 3 hours, 18 minutes and some change in Boston, just a 1-minute PR. So all the training paid off, all the hills, and the Kenya trip. Bella, here, here, thank you. Morning, okay. Now after Boston, I still stayed with Macmillan, but I decided I'm gonna use their personal coaching. So now I've been working with a coach one-on-one. What he changed was to increase the intensity. So I'm running 2 hard workouts a week now and a long run, which sometimes a workout as well. And because of that, we lowered my weekly mileage a little bit. So my highest mileage for the Tunnel Light Marathon build-up was 71 miles a week, but I was at 74 a few weeks. I finished the Tunnel Light Marathon with a time of 3:04:11.
So this is how I shaved 36 minutes of my marathon time over 6 years. Yeah, like 36 minutes isn't too much over 6 years. And yeah, that's true. But in my case, I was prepared for my first marathon as well. So it wasn't like I didn't train for it or I made a huge mistake. I was well prepared with fueling, with training, a 20-week long training plan. I think that's enough for a first marathoner. And that was all I could do that time. And the injuries and the setbacks, I think I lost at least 2 or 3 years. So to summarize it, the key to get faster was consistency. And to be consistent, for me, I had to be injury-free. Otherwise, I wasn't able to run. I don't struggle with motivation. I'm really disciplined. I know I have to put in the work to get faster. And I'm willing to do that. And I love doing that. That's the good thing, is it? So what would I change if I start over? First of all, I would be more patient with the progress because it just takes a long time. Don't push on easy days. I learned this on the hard way. The third, I would add run-specific strength training to my schedule at least 2 times a week, if not 3 times. Nutrition. I always eat healthy in my life, so I didn't have to change those things as much. But I definitely have to figure out what foods help me to recover faster. When I started running, I took 2 days off every week. I think it was Monday and Friday, running 5 days a week. And after several years of doing that, I finally managed to be able to run 6 times a week. And that helped a lot. Right now, I'm running every day, but I'm not doing a run streak. So if I feel like I need a full rest day, I just take a rest day. So it's more like getting to the next point, learning how to listen to your body. I thought if I push hard, I will be faster. And I thought there's no gain without pain. But in running, it's not really the case because you still have to be more careful. Otherwise, I end up with injuries and can be consistent and then miss a year in my case when I had to take a full year off. That was horrible. Prioritizing sleep, setting a routine like, okay, 8 o'clock is my bedtime. I go to bed at 8 o'clock, no matter what. That's okay with me because running is what I like to do. And that's my main thing. So these are not really sacrifices for me. So after I built a solid base over the years, I finally started focusing more on how to get faster. So first, my goal was to just be consistent. The biggest concern was to be able to run. And now that I have that base and foundation, I can focus on more how to get faster and still maintain my weekly mileage. I started running my long runs faster a little bit, more like a moderate pace, and also implementing long run workouts. But these came from a coach. Like I started working with a coach one-on-one, and that helped a lot because he knows better how to get faster. And right now my goal is to break 3 hours eventually. So volume was the key for me to get faster because I don't have any talent. I don't have high VO2 max. I don't have any specific like gifts. I'm just an average person. So for me, the high mileage helped a lot. But to get to high mileage, I had to be patient to build up to it. And for that, I have to be able to run consistently. And for that, I have to be able to avoid injuries and so on. The other thing was not to increase intensity and volume at the same time. So you bump up your weekly mileage, then you shouldn't add an extra speed session at the same time. If you're able to run that volume for a while, then yes, you can increase the intensity. What I'm doing now. So these first 2 weeks were just getting back to it. I don't take seasons off. I keep running. I only take a week or 9 days the most off after each marathon just to let my body completely recover. And my coach just put workouts for me for the second week already. These workouts are much shorter than I was doing before, so they're not that bad. So since I made it to 3 hours and 4 minutes on my last marathon, if you haven't seen it, watch the video here. My goal is for my next race to go under 3:04 on a flat course, not a downhill course. So my next race is going to be London in 2025, April. I have a lot of time until then. So what we're going to do is run a few 5Ks, 10Ks because I haven't done any short races before. I jumped into marathoning right away. So that's going to be fun and probably very painful. And then in January, I'm planning to run a half marathon. So I'm excited. And for London, my goal is to just go under 3:04, no matter how much. This is how she likes to sleep. Hi. Heads hanging down. Why?